Hello and welcome back to Outlandish Claims, episode 2, question mark? We record 5 at a time. That's why we're wearing the same things. It's not because we're all poor and slovenly. I promise you we actually make money.
Kind of. Except for Adam.
Shut up. I said kind of. I said kind of. Shut up. Unemployment counts.
I think you meant to call this Outlandish Claims 2 Electric Boogaloo.
And we're off to the races. So last episode, we talked with Mr. Edwards, who is still up there smiling down upon us like the god he is.
Why? Why? He already said he was glowing in the last episode, and now you put him at god status?
He's just jealous. He's really jealous. That's a point.
It's your boy Mike Edwards, you know? It's your boy Mike Edwards.
Yeah,
that's royalty to a peasant. Don't worry.
It's your boy Mike.
Well, we talked with Mr. Edwards last segment about the best off seasons. Last episode. No, we definitely are recording these on individual days. Absolutely no crossover whatsoever. But today we're going to talk with Mr. Miller about the worst off seasons. So Taylor, floor is yours, and you just got this about 5 minutes ago when our other segmenter dropped out. So we forgive you for anything you miss.
The Rockies, by far, had the worst MLB offseason. You get rid of the best third baseman in the league in Nolan Arenado and pretty much get almost nothing for it. Like, they didn't really get top-tier talent. They got no top prospects in the deal that really stand out and like are going to break the majors or are major league ready right now. They also didn't sign a player of actual like note until mid-January. Didn't sign a single player for 2.5 months. How do you get away with that as a Major League Baseball team? And you were trying to sell your fans on the fact that you could possibly win for at least half of the offseason. And now you got this whole mess with Trevor Story, too. What do you do with him? The Colorado Rockies are in a very, very bad position right now. And it is because of this offseason where they couldn't sign pitching. They couldn't sign any backup infielders. They couldn't get anybody of note in their bullpen either. And number 2, I'm sorry, Adam. I'm sorry.
I still think they had the worst.
I got to give it to the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean,
Adam's his biggest critic when it comes to the Rays, so you don't have to apologize.
Yeah, I love them to death, but mother of God, they are.
They traded Blake Snell, like we spoke about, and one of the Padres' best moves in the offseason and arguably puts them at number 1 for the best move. But it puts Tampa in the conversation for possibly the worst offseason. And it is because of the talent that they got back. Francisco Mejia is not going to be ready for at least another 3 years. And their supporting cast in that starting rotation now gets hurt. They can't run bullpen days 2 out of 5 days of the week. They just can't. It's not sustainable for your arms in the bullpen. I think a lot of players on that team are soured by the trade of Snell too, but they're keeping it quiet. They lost out on Charlie Morton. They got Chris Archer. Fine. Okay. But that's a low risk. It's a low risk, high reward. And the best you can get out of him is an average season, most likely. But I think I do think Chris Archer has a little bit of a return to form, maybe as his first season in Pittsburgh rather than his last 2 or 3 in Tampa, the first go around. I also got to give it to Houston Astros, one of the worst off seasons in Major League Baseball this year. Lost out on not able to retain George Springer. Obviously, I don't think there was really much conversation last year. They didn't seem like they really wanted to retain him, especially with Kyle Tucker on the uprise over there. But they also didn't really make a move to try to replace Justin Verlander for the first 3 quarters of the season. Justin Verlander is going to be out with Tommy John surgery pretty much almost all season this year. You can literally think that Houston Astros might not even finish first in their division this year.
Okay. So now that Millz has covered basically everything under the sun about what the worst teams in the offseason were, and there's nothing left for Gio and me but the scraps of bone marrow, I guess I'll go for the Tampa Bay Rays because that's honest to God what I think. Not only did they trade their best postseason pitcher, not only do they have only Colin McHugh and Chris Archer, and God knows the pitching coach, the pitching staff at Tampa, is good enough to bring back Chris Archer and to get Colin McHugh to do the same thing they got Charlie Morton to do, which is absolutely kill it. They have no offense except for a Rosarena, and they did nothing to deal with it. Number one. Number two, what's the deal with the prospects? I love Adames. I love him. He's a fun guy. He's a great person in that dugout. Everybody in the entire organization seems to love him. What are you going to do with Adames when you have Franco coming up? What are you going to do with Franco if Adames decides to have an all-star season? These are questions they are not even remotely prepared to answer because they haven't even thought about moving either of them to third or either of them to second. They are unprepared for the future, even though they have a great future and a great prospect pool, best in the majors. They don't know what they're doing when it comes to their current roster, and I don't think they're prepared to deal with the question of Adames moving to third, moving to second, or just moving teams. Or do you try the outfield with Franco, or do you try the outfield with Adames? They're not ready at all. Following along on that, I don't think they even know what they're going to do with Rosarena because he started his rookie contract in St. Louis, so they're already a year behind on him. They don't know how they're going to deal with that because that dude is going to command a $250 million when he hits the free market agency, at least. Free agency market, at least. And finally, not only do they lose the World Series because Kevin Cash can't get out of his own head, they then have to sit down and watch the two other teams in the city win their championships. They sat and watched as the coaches made the proper moves. John Cooper saying, hey, Steven Stamkos, you're injured, but you know what? You're going to play because everybody loves you, and you said you could, and I'm going to trust you to play one game. And you know what Stamkos did? He scored a goal, and it turned the whole series around, and that, I guarantee you, is why Tampa Bay Lightning won that Stanley Cup because of Steven Stamkos' goal. And now my hair is all screwed to hell, so I'm going to shut up. Gio, go ahead. Have fun.
All right. Well, to add to your Tampa Bay stuff, Adam, so you also mentioned the Lightning. Of course, the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, which also is similar to a
43-year-old quarterback. I'm sorry. Let me shut up.
It's okay. It's okay. If you want to get it out before I keep going, please. Go ahead. Okay. So it's a similar situation with the Buccaneers because if you remember at the beginning of the season, they were struggling a lot. And Arians and Brady were fighting about the offense and how it should be run. Arians loves to run it and gun it style where you throw like 30 picks and 40 touchdowns, whereas Brady wants to run a more.
Let the coach listen to his player!
Exactly what happened. So Arians adjusted to what Brady's strengths were, and what happened? They won a Super Bowl. It's not a coincidence. So that's all I have to add about the race stuff. I'm already heard enough. I feel bad for him. So Millz already covered. The worst offseason absolutely goes to the Rockies. You can't even argue any other team, I think. Just because of the Arenado stuff. The fact that Ian Desmond playing outfield in his mid-30s and he opted out for 2 straight seasons. Daniel Murphy retired because he couldn't handle it anymore. Their pitching is terrible. Charlie Blackmon's going to have his career just basically go rot in Colorado for the rest of his career. Trevor Story, a pending free agent, will be traded for pennies on the dime. The Yankees should definitely inquire about that. That's a whole different story. But the other teams that I'm going to put in worst offseason to add to the ones you guys mentioned, minus the Cardinals, the whole entire NL Central. They've done nothing. If you look at the Brewers, sorry, why I said the Bucks? The Brewers' best move is Colton Wong, who is a Cardinals player that they didn't want to re-sign. And he's been declining offensively. Chicago basically traded Kyle Schwarber for Jock Peterson and then traded Yu Darvish for nothing. Then you go to the Reds, who did nothing after losing Trevor Bauer, and were almost going to deal Luis Castillo as well. A team that had a really good rotation, let arguably their best pitcher go, which, you can't blame him when he's getting paid $40 million a year. But they did virtually nothing to, stop the wound or at least keep it from bleeding out. And then Pittsburgh is just Pittsburgh. That whole entire division is going to be fun. It's going to be like the NL East a couple of years ago where they're all just terrible teams fighting for 80 wins to get into the playoffs to win that division. It's a giant mess.
I guess that will do it. We have 2 for the Rockies and 1 for the Rays. Who's right? Who's wrong? Neither of us? Probably all of us are wrong. I'm sure there's another team out there that had a worse offseason for other reasons other than professional playing, Seattle. But we're not going to cover that because we like to keep things light. But trust me, we know damn straight who had the actual worst offseason. We're watching you, you weed-smoking, Starbucks-drinking idiots. Until next time, this has been Outlandish Claims.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, simply create a profile on Fan Media's iOS app or website. Select your teams and make a short intro video on your phone. Show hosts, reporters, former players, and superfans can use our Get Verified feature and make an intro video as well, and our mobile newsroom staff will reach out.